Okay, so now d3 by Sindarov, he keeps the structure flexible, and guys, this complete setup is known as Italian game, 2 knights defense and modern bishop opening. And after that, bishop to e7, and you can see he is ready to castle kingside, bringing the king to safety. And after that, finally, Sindarov castles and d6, connecting the solid pawn chain, but a4. And you can see Sindarov expands on the queen side, bishop to e6, a good move by Dubov, asking for a bishop exchange so that he can open the f file. And finally, Sindarov decides to trade bishop, and you can see now Duda gets this open f file, but also look at this isolated pawn on e6. I mean, it may become a weakness or maybe a strong asset if used wisely in the game. Okay, so c3, and you can see now queen to b3 is coming, which is going to target the pawn on b7 and e6. And finally, Dubov castles, completing his development, b4. And you can see he wants to kick the knight on c6 and create chaos on the queen side. So to stop this, and now Dubov plays h6. Basically he is putting a complete stop to any bishop to g5 or knight to g5 ideas. Knight at b goes to d2, and now Dubov slides the queen to e8, and you can see the queen is heading to f7 or g6 to join the kingside attack. Okay, so now knight to d7. You can see Dubov reroutes the knight, which indicates that he's going for a, and you can see he's now going to going for this d5 break. h3, queen to f7, and finally this queen is ready to join a kingside assault. And after that, knight at 1 goes to h2. Sindarov wants to put pressure on the dark square around the black king. King to h8, Dubov tucks the king into the corner, a typical safety measure against any knight jumps. And now Sindarov brings the knight further on g4. And yes, I know some of you might be thinking about the move h5, attacking the knight, but guys, that's an inaccuracy, because after this knight goes back to h2, just take a look at this weak pawn, which can become an easy target in the future. So let's suppose if black decides to slide the king to g8 so that he can keep his king away from this weak h file, which can become a vulnerability after this pawn push. But now comes king to h1, creating space for the rook. And in the next move, you can see g4 is coming. And let's suppose if black now continues the game with b6, a5. Okay, b takes a5, queen to a4, attacking both knights. So that's why knight at d goes to b8 is forced. And after, let's suppose, takes, knight to a7, and if he tries to bring this knight into a better square, but bishop to e3. Okay, and if knight to b5, if he tries to attack the c3 pawn, white can just push c4, attacking the knight again. And after knight to a7, rook to g1, preparing to push g4. And if c5, g4, attacking the rook so that he can open the g file for the rook. And guys, let's suppose to defend this, if black decides to push the pawn further by, let's suppose, h4, now white can also advance the pawn with g5. And basically this move does two things. First of all, white is now threatening to push g6, and also this move blocks the diagonal of this dark square bishop. And now white can grab the pawn on h4 anytime. And let's suppose if black goes for queen to g6 so that he can stop the further advancement of this pawn. Now before capturing the pawn on h4, white can also go for this amazing move, queen to d1. And guys, the idea behind this move is that when white captures the pawn on h5, black cannot access the h5 square to defend because of the queen on d1. But what if black instantly goes for queen to h5? And guys, if this happens, now comes this amazing move g6, covering the f7 and h7 squares. And now just take a look at the queen. I mean, all these squares are controlled by white, which makes black position extremely uncomfortable. This clearly makes the position better for white. Okay, so that's why after knight to g5, so after knight to g4, here Dubov goes for queen to g6, putting queen in the front of white king. Bishop to d2, Sindarov just develops king to h7, a good move by Dubov. Basically, he wants to defend the h6 pawn so that he can avoid the sacrifice like knight takes h6, which would be a disaster for black. And finally, d4 by Sindarov. He goes for the central break, eyeing the e5 pawn. So to defend this, knight to f7. Okay, so Sindarov now brings the other rook to the d file, preparing to ramp up the pressure after a possible d takes e5. I mean, if now white captures on e5, you can see this rook on this d file will be a great option. And guys, now knight to c5 might be the best option for black, targeting the pawn on a4. And let's suppose to defend this, if rook to a1, now h5, attacking the knight. Knight at g goes to h2, d takes e5. And now white can, go for the move c4. If he tries to, strengthen the structure, b6. Black can also lock the structure. And if bishop to c3, if he tries to cover this important diagonal, rook to d8, preparing to plant this knight on d3. Bishop takes e5, knight to d3, attacking the rook. If rook at e goes to d1, knight takes e5. Knight takes e5, knight takes e5, rook takes d8, rook takes d8, and no need to tell that who is winning here. But in the game, after d takes e5, here Dubov directly goes for knight at f takes e5. And the problem with that move is, after knight takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5 and d takes e5, you can see black will end up with this double pawn structure. Okay, so now Sindarov goes for queen to c4. He basically eyeing the c7 pawn, but this might be a bit over ambitious. A better choice would be bishop to e3, opening the g file so that white can bring the rook to 7th rank. And let's suppose if he tries to exchange the rook by rook to d8, now white can go for queen to c4. I mean, he can go for the pawn. After rook takes d1, rook takes d1, and if he tries to defend the pawn by, let's suppose, rook to c8, now comes b6, taking benefit of the pinned c7 pawn. And if black pushed c6, now rook to d7, attacking the bishop and the pawn. Bishop to g5, bishop takes g5, queen takes g5, rook takes b7, queen to c1 check, queen to f1, queen takes c3, rook to f7. And you can see now black is successful in creating a passer. Queen to b3, queen to a6. And when the dust settles, you can see white b pawn is now extremely dangerous. Okay, so in the game, after queen to c4, so basically after the game, after in this position, bishop to h4, Dubov immediately activates his bishop to h4, and now look at the attack being created on f2. So to defend this, bishop to e3, rook to f3. And guys, that's a great way of taking advantage of the pinned g pawn. And you can also see that rook takes h3 is coming. So that's why Sindarov slides the king to f1. And since this rook is attacked, so that's why rook to f7. And guys, basically this also defends the c7 pawn by queen. So rook to d2. Basically Sindarov is trying to defend the second rank, but rook at e goes to f8. Dubov just piles on the f file. So to defend this, Sindarov goes for bishop to c5. He tries to attack the rook, forcing it to move. But guys, in this position, Dubov goes for this crazy this crazy move, queen to g3. And now just take a close look at this position. You can see entire black army is surrounding the white king. And you can see rook takes f2 check is coming. And Sindarov, tries to defend this by queen to e2. But it's too late, because in this position the final move by Dubov is so queen to h2, and guys, in this position Sindarov resigned, because let's suppose if this game continues like queen to d3, so that he can create an escaping square for the king. Now queen to h1 check, king to e2, and now what's next? Can you guess the move? Just pause the video and try to find it by yourself. And guys, the move is to sacrifice the rook by rook takes f2 check. The idea is after bishop takes f2, now comes rook takes f2 check, king to d1, rook takes d2 check, queen takes d2, bishop takes e1, queen takes e1, queen takes g2, and when the dust settles, you can see white position is completely hopeless. What a brilliant attacking game by Dubov. Like this video and I will see you in the next one. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.